Welcome to day 10 of 21 Days to Self-Care. This is Taraka. Yesterday's loving kindness meditation is one of the compassion meditations in the Buddhist tradition. Today I wanted to focus on how to use meditation to alleviate the pressure of relationships and how it can promote self-care in this realm of self and others that we love care. This second Buddhist meditation is more esoteric. The person I learned these meditations from is Jack Kornfield, who as a young Peace Corps worker in the 60s and 70s visited Southeast Asia and found himself amid a war. He took shelter in the monasteries and learned the way of Zen. He demonstrated the meditation I'll share today by using the example of a single father who was harried by the rushed morning routine, and he floundered for solutions to his children's grumpy behavior before leaving for school each morning. He was helped by the meditation to see a different way of being that simply required a shift in attitude and spending a few more minutes connecting with the children through the compassion meditation. Compassion is a huge component of love, and without generating love and compassion for ourselves, it will not be complete love and compassion for others. Sometimes in relationships, a shift in attitude is what we need to get through the moment or hour. Simple meditations can help us take a breath and regain composure. Larry Cohen, child psychologist, recommends telling children when there has been an emotional blowout, "I need time out. So you stay here and I will come back in about 10 or 15 minutes when I feel better to deal with this situation." So the child understands mom or dad is having difficulty managing their big emotions and learns by example that timeout can help cool things down. It takes the shame and blame out of a conflict and redirects emphasis to proactivity, self-regulation, and self-management. Children learn this by watching this kind behavior. Brené Brown is also a big exponent of self-compassion and says the practice of self-compassion and having patience with oneself is essential in the process of developing the courage to lead. Everyone is a leader of a family or team, dare I say, at the very least. I think it's a big deal to be a leader in a family, but each one of us has at least a small passion that inspires us to stand up and be heard. In the standing up, if we don't start with our own self-compassion in the long run, being passionate about causes or beliefs may not be sustainable physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, and or relationally. There are scriptural references to this self-love and self-compassion from every tradition, and in my contemplation on the subject, I've considered how interconnected people were in the past and how they needed each participant in a community to survive. Therefore, taking good care of self meant taking good care of community and vice versa. So in this case, we're looking at family. So taking good care of myself means that I can be a good participant in the family. I can take care of my family members. This taking good care of self and community is brought up by Judy Atkinson, a professor of Indigenous Australian Studies, and she spoke at a trauma conference in 2017. She noted, "Our people say, if my community is healthy, I am healthy. And if I am healthy, my community is healthy. If I am sick, my community is sick. And if my community is sick, I am sick." So I'm just taking this to relate to a family or a very small community of friends and people that are meaningful to us. Next week we'll kind of step back and look at that whole community thing more, but I just think it's so helpful hearing that quote from Judy Atkinson to understand how interrelated we are. I'm encouraging the practice of self-compassion as part of self-care. If we are compassionate to ourselves, we will have more spare hard drive. We won't be filling up our memory banks with all the things we do wrong or aren't perfect at every day, those interactions with others that don't go well or are really bad. We will have space in our operating system for time out and time in with ourselves to reflect. And we'll be able to pat ourselves on the back when things don't go well, and we can say there and soothe ourselves. We then have the capacity to have space for taking on others' problems with resilience and reserves to spare. Brené Brown also talks about resentment spilling in when our batteries are low and personal values are not being upheld. Today's activity is around exploring compassion. Tomorrow we will look at it again and generate some personal values. Today, you'll draw a line drawing of a profile of yourself and write about the thoughts you have being self-compassionate. Then you'll draw another head if you're being compassionate towards others. So there'll be some overlap with those words, and you can think about the connections of what you say to yourself and what you say to others. This is to help you imbibe those thoughts projected towards others and bring them back home to yourself. Are you ready? Here's the meditation. It's a bit esoteric, so hold on. Take a breath. Connect to your breath and body. Notice what's going on in your body. Let go of those runaway thoughts. Center back in your body and do a calm to chaos check. 1 is calm, 100 is chaos. And just think about your heart. Feel your heart and even place your hand on your heart. This is the natural place most people feel compassion, gratitude, and love. Breathe into your heart. Feel the blood pumping there and think about the heart as the friend who stands by you every day, helping you live by supplying oxygen and blood all around your body. You don't even need to think about it. Your heart does it automatically. So thinking about your heart, thinking about the job that it does without us even thinking about it. Breathe, relax the body. Notice anywhere that is a bit tense and breathe into that place, whether you're lying or sitting down. So now imagine a time in the last 7 days that was challenging between you and another family member. It may be a little uncomfortable at first, and we will work through it. Imagine where you were, what room were you in, and what was happening. Think about the frustration you had and the difficulty not knowing how to solve the situation. While the event is happening, while you're thinking about that event happening, there is a knock at the door and you say, "Excuse me, I must go to the door." So then you go to the door and you leave whatever's going on and go there. At the door is the divine being that inspires you the most. Maybe it's an angel, a deity, or divine representative of God. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a goddess, Kuan Yin, and she's the deity of compassionate heart. So think of the most inspiring person if you can't get hold of divine personality in your mind. So we're just answering the door and seeing the most inspirational being that we can think of. See the brilliance surrounding them and the look of complete compassion on their face as they see into your heart. They know the trouble you have been going through, and they are here to help. This divine being or being of inspiration says to you, "It's time for me to step in here for a moment. I think I can lend a hand." The divine being says, "Let's trade clothes and I will imitate you for a while, and you can stand here and watch what goes on. Stay out of sight, but see what you need to. You trade clothes with the divine being in a flash, and she or he walks into the room of your home and takes up the scenario from where you left off. This divine being, full of compassion, walks into your place and brings the light of compassion and grace into the situation that was troubling you. The heart of your guest is of complete kindness and grace, and he or she interacts with the scene. You know it's not you, but whoever you were interacting with thinks that it's you. You can see what is happening. After a few minutes, the divine being says to whoever they are interacting with, "Oh, I hear someone at the door. I will be back in a moment." The divine being comes back to you, and you both step outside. You trade clothes again. The divine being touches you somewhere, like your shoulder or head, wherever it feels most appropriate or comfortable, and bows their head in grace. They reach into their large robe pocket and bring out a symbol for you and place it into your hands. You feel their enormous presence and their enormous kindness and mercy. This symbol helps you to understand how you too can act. Now the divine being may have one last phrase of inspiration to share with you. And now they disappear. You go back inside and see how things are different, or how you are different. Notice your breath. Notice your posture. Notice anything new in the way you're sitting or lying. Breathe in and out in a long inhalation and exhalation. Notice the sounds nearby. Become aware of the sounds further away. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. Please rate yourself from 1 to 100 from the calm to chaos scale. Draw your two heads, and in the head, number 1, write the ways you speak to yourself with words of compassion. So this might not happen already, but it's something that you're working towards. When you make a mistake, how are you going to speak to yourself? And in the other head, how are you going to speak to others? And then compare them and reflect on what happens in the two different heads. If you have time after the drawing and writing exercise, you can reflect on the session in your journal. Thank you for joining me for day 10 of 21 Days to Self-Care.